Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening, bringing you the news from Sri Lanka and across the world. It's your national news broadcast on Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. I'm Siobhan Pereira.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Sharifah Tahir. Let's take a look at the headlines. The government's stance on the sanctions imposed to 4 individuals, including former senior military officials, handed over to the British High Commissioner. The circular relevant to public service salary increment issued. Public servants will enjoy relief from both salary increment and tax amendments. Export sector marks a significant growth during the first 2 months of the year. The proposal to remove Deshabandhu Tennakone from the IGP post will be presented to Parliament on the 8th or 9th of April. A relief package for low-income families for the new year. 11 Sri Lankans sentenced to life in Kuwait brought to the island. Wildfires claimed 24 lives in South Korea. 23,000 evacuated to safer areas. We now move on to those and other stories in detail, taking a look at local news. The government has expressed its opposition to the UK imposing sanctions on 4 individuals, including 3 former senior officers of the Sri Lankan Armed Forces.
The government emphasizes that this move does not assist but serve to complicate the national reconciliation process underway in Sri Lanka. The stance of the government on the sanctions was officially communicated by Minister Vijitha Herath to the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Andrew Patrick at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Colombo. The government has taken this position in response to the statement issued by the British Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Offices yesterday, which enlisted UK sanctions for human rights violations and abuses during the Sri Lanka civil war. And statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs today has highlighted that the sanctions are a unilateral measure taken by the British government. Sri Lanka Export Development Board, in a special announcement, points out that the export sector has achieved a significant growth during the first 2 months of this year. The entire exports, including trade, goods and services, has reached up to $1,382.53 million in February this year. It is a 4.62% significant growth compared to the same month last year. The Export Development Board says exports in February this year has recorded 2.58% monthly growth compared to January this year. According to the temporary data of the Sri Lanka Customs and estimated statistics for gem and jewellery and petroleum product sectors, the value of trade goods in February this year is $1,056.39 million. The service sector in February this year has earned $326.14 million. It is a growth of 24.37% compared to February last year. Now, the entire exports, including goods and services during January and February this year, have been estimated at $2,730.33 million. This is a growth of 6.65% compared to the same period last year.
Archbishop His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit says that all should act collectively to safeguard Buddhism, which is considered as the backbone of Sri Lanka. The Archbishop made these remarks expressing his views regarding the special exposition of the sacred tooth relic. Archbishop His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit said that disregarding the religious faith, people should be lucky to be born in this island nation. Therefore, the people must be proud of being Sri Lankan. As citizens of this country, we have the responsibility of safeguarding a common heritage of Buddhism, which is considered as the backbone of the country. Having sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha is a blessing for all the citizens. It is commendable that the government requested the most venerable Mahanayaka Theras for this exposition of a sacred tooth relic. It is also commendable the Theras accepted the request and act accordingly as well. When the Buddhist devotees are eagerly waiting to worship the relics, the Catholic fraternity will also join with them to respect the sacred tooth relic.
බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේගේ දන්ත ධාතුන් වහන්සේ මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොළොව
Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says that the government has not yet taken a policy decision to merge Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, Independent Television Network and Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Joining the press briefing held at the Government Information Department today to inform the cabinet decisions, he further said that a proposal in this connection has only been presented at present. Answering a question raised by a journalist whether SLRC, ITN and SLBC will be merged and sold, Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said that such a decision has not yet been taken. The government is mediating to develop these institutions separately. These entities should be modernized. Although a proposal has been presented regarding these bodies, the government is now having discussions with the administration of these institutes to modernize them and make them profitable. The ultimate aim is to make them efficient public service institutions. The government will take pragmatic decisions and no one should panic. During the former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's rule, various proposals were presented to disrupt the service of these institutions. During that period, the cabinet has taken some decisions to prevent recruitment for these institutions. The minister further said that panic. Answering another question whether the unprofitable public entities would be privatized, Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said that during the 1960 to 1970, the governments had started many such institutions. After 5 or 6 decades, such institutions cannot be maintained in the same manner. There should be some modernization moves to make them profitable. This government is ready to strengthen the public service. Therefore, amidst many difficulties, 110 billion rupees have been set aside to increase the salaries of public servants. In another 18 months, 330 million rupees will also be allocated from the Treasury to increase the salaries of the public sector. The government expects to increase the efficiency of following the salary increment. The government wishes the public servants would extend their utmost support to maintain the government institutions in an efficient and effective manner.
Cabinet approval has been granted for the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan 2025 to 2029. Now, this action plan is expected to be implemented with the coordination of all the ministries, departments, all governmental institutes and the relevant stakeholders. The role of the Bribery and Corruption Investigation Commission has been expanded by the Anti-Corruption Act number 9 of 2023. Accordingly, the Commission role has been expanded from investigating and prosecuting offences related to bribery and corruption to the implementation and regulation of anti-corruption policies to eliminate bribery and corruption. In terms of the bounds of Section 5 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, the first National Action Plan Against Bribery and Corruption in Sri Lanka has been implemented during the period 2019 to 2023. Having reviewed the said action plan, a new National Action Plan for National Corruption has been formulated for the period 2025 to 2029 with the participation of a domestic and international stakeholder. Accordingly, the proposal was tabled by President Andrew Kumar Dissanayake. The clearance of the Attorney General has been received for the foreign debt abolishment draft prepared by the draftsman. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal presented by the President to publish the said draft in the Government Gazette and thereafter to present it to Parliament for approval. Approval was previously granted to amend the Land Acquisition Act appropriate to the current requirements. The initial draft has been prepared for that purpose, and the legal draftsman has informed that the policy approval of the Cabinet of Ministers should be taken for the completion of the activities of the preparation of the draft. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has decided to instruct the legal draftsman to prepare the draft promptly. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal to abolish the previous Cabinet decision in respect of liquidation of the Cooperative Wholesale Corporation and recommence the business activities of the corporation based on the feasible business plan. The relevant proposal was presented by the Minister of Trade, Commerce and Food Security and Cooperative Development. A decision has been taken on the provision of an essential goods package for a concessionary price during the Sinhala and Tamil New Year festival season. It has been planned to provide a timely food package containing essential food items valued 5,000 rupees for only 2,500 rupees. It is expected to select appropriate beneficiaries among the candidates who have submitted new applications to receive Asvasuma benefits. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal to take necessary steps to provide the food package to the beneficiaries through Sri Lanka Satusan Outlet Network and Corp Fed outlets from April 1st to April 13th. The Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to the resolution to submit those order of the concurrence of the Parliament as per the provisions of the Regularization of Fertilizer Act number 68 of 1988.
The amended circular pertaining to the salary increment for the public servants proposed by this budget was issued yesterday. Accordingly, 24,250 rupees minimum basic salary of public sector has been increased up to 40,000 rupees. Experts say that in addition to the salary increment, public officials will have relief from the proposed tax amendments as well. The Cabinet Ministers has entrusted the power to the Secretary of the Ministry of Provincial Council and Local Government of issuing the circulars relevant to the salary revision of the public sector to all ministry secretaries, provincial chief secretaries and head of the departments. The relevant cabinet decision was issued yesterday. In addition, the power to issue the relevant circular guidance to state corporations, statutory boards and government-owned companies and other institutions to the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Policy Planning and Economic Development. The basic salary will be increased by 15,750 rupees with effect from the 1st of April this year. It is scheduled to be conducted under several stages. 5,000 rupees of the net salary increment and 30% of the balance will be paid from April this year. The rest of the 70% will be paid in equal portions in January 2026 and in January 2027. Accordingly, a sum of 110 billion rupees will be allocated for the proposed salary increment of this year. Accordingly, with the basic salary increase of 15,750 rupees, new basic salary of the public administration sector will increase up to 40,000 rupees. President Anurag Kumar Dissanayake said that the government has taken a decision to increase the basic salary under a scientific method. If teams of special capacities are added to the public service, there should be attractive salary scales for them. Holiday pays will be increased after 1st April. There was a massive grievance that a significant portion of the salary is slashed as taxes. Therefore, the tax limit increased from 100,000 rupees monthly salary up to 150,000 rupees. In addition, monthly income limit subjected to pay tax was increased from 100,000 rupees to 150,000 rupees by this budget. Under this tax concession, about 150,000 middle-income individuals will enjoy the tax-free concession. It is also an advantage for the public and private sector employees as well as some employers, and any employee under that salary is 100% free of taxes.
This time government proposed to increase salary in this budget 2025. I think it is very important proposal because last couple of years we had the serious economic crisis and therefore there is a huge inflation in Sri Lanka and day by day increase the prices of goods. Right? Then we need to increase at least our salaries. We are asking, they are requesting every day to the government to increase our salaries because our real income is day by day decreasing. So in that side, the government, this proposal is very important. Then our living standard also that seriously affected the last couple of months, even couple of years, right after during that our period, the economic crisis, it was very serious, right? Our living standards very day by day is decreasing, deteriorating. For I believe that this increasing salaries in this time increase very important.
Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says that the proposal to remove Deshabandhu Tennakon from the IGP post is scheduled to be presented to the Parliament on the 8th and 9th of April. A group of NPP parliamentarians handed over the relevant proposal to the Speaker yesterday. 115 parliamentarians of the NPP have signed this proposal. Suspended IGP Deshabandhu Tennakon is now in remand per prison in connection with a shooting incident occurred in Valigam area. Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said that 115 parliamentarians have signed this proposal and it will be entered into the agenda. After 5 days, it is included in the agenda, and as the earliest day the Parliament convenes, it will be debated. Accordingly, the proposal is scheduled to be passed in Parliament on the 8th and 9th of April. For such a proposal, there should be signatures of over 113 parliamentarians.
20 prisoners, including 11 who were sentenced to life imprisonment in Kuwait, were brought to the island today. They were brought under the agreement of exchanging prisoners between Kuwait and Sri Lanka. Commissioner General of Prisons Tushara Upul-Denia said that according to the agreement of exchanging prisoners signed between Kuwait and Sri Lanka, 20 Sri Lankan prisoners were airlifted to the island today. The Kuwaiti officials will hand over them to the Sri Lankan prison officials. Among them, 11 have been sentenced to life and 9 others are serving definite prison terms. All these inmates are males. They will serve their prison terms in Sri Lankan prisons hereafter. In the same manner, Pakistani, Iran and Czech Republic civilians who serve prison terms in Sri Lanka have been handed over to the relevant authorities.
A special program has been implemented to provide typhoid vaccinations to 50,000 persons engaging in the food processing and sales sectors. Now, this vaccination drive is being carried out by the epidemiology unit under the guidance of the Ministry of Health and Mass Media. This vaccination program has been scheduled to be conducted before the Sinhala and Tamil New Year period. This has been implemented based on a priority list prepared by considering the spread of typhoid cases in the country during the past period. Accordingly, it has been identified that employees engaging in catering, food processing and sales sectors are vulnerable to this disease. Dr. Nilangaruan Patirana of the epidemiology unit says, therefore, the individuals of the sectors have to be targeted for this vaccination drive. This will help them to control the spread of typhoid and prevent the disease. The health authorities have recommended that to prevent from typhoid, this vaccination should be given in every 3 years.
The disappearance of the rings of Saturn has been widely discussed in the media these days. What is the true nature of this astronomical event? This is a brief segment into this phenomena. Astronomers explain that the disappearance of Saturn's ring is a phenomenon that occurs within a time frame of 13 to 15 years. This rare event is referred to by astronomers as the movement of the ring plane through each other. So what exactly happens during this phenomenon?
Now, when you talk about Saturn, the most prominent thing that we know about Saturn is its ring system. But these days, there's a special phenomenon happening. That is, we will not be able to observe the ring system of Saturn. Now, if you look at how this happens, we have to look at the structure of the solar system. As you all know, Sun is at the center of the solar system, and then all other planets are going in a plane around this Sun, and then all these planets are having some kind of a tilt as well. We call it an axial tilt. For example, if you look at the Earth, the axial tilt of Earth is 23.5 degrees and the axial tilt of Saturn is 27 degrees. So when these planets are going around in the same plane, sometimes these axial tilts are getting equal to each other. So when that happens, the ring system of the Saturn will not become visible to us. So that is what is happening right now. So even though these ring systems are not visible right now, in few weeks time we should be able to see that, and in around 2032 we should be able to see this ring system much properly, and then you can observe the rings as they are usually visible. And if you are going to observe Saturn will be visible in the early morning just prior to the sunrise, and if you look at the eastern direction you should be able to observe the Saturn, and then if you have a good telescope you should be able to see Saturn without a ring system right now. And that's a special observation because it happens usually around usually for each 13 to 15 years light. And so if you can make that observation, that will be a good observation because it happens in decades of time.
The Monetary Policy Board has decided to keep the overnight policy rate unchanged at 8%.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, speaking at the media briefing held today, said that the board has decided to maintain this rate considering the economic outlook and inflation projections. Dr. Veerasinghe pointed out that by the third quarter, the deflationary pressures would ease and inflation would stabilize at a modest level.
Current monetary policy stance is appropriate on the basis of how we see the future inflation. If we see the inflation projection is moving towards a 5%, I don't see there's any room for any easing. I think that's a very prudent decision, and the board did not see any change. And this current policy stance is appropriate given based on our expectations inflation will come back to the level, and also deflation only a temporary situation and it will turn around positive. I think from Q3 and Q4 will back to normal situation. That's mainly forward-looking basis. We don't see any space.
Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe made remarks on the potential impacts of the proposed US trade policies on Sri Lanka's economy.
I think it is too early because this things are evolving, and still, even from the US side, it's not very certain the level of tariffs and on which countries they are going to implement at what rates. All are not very clear. It's very uncertain. But we have looked at what's our share. For example, our export market is mainly on apparel sector. It's about $2 billion annually. We have a very favorable trade balance with the US. But in terms of the size of the market access, I think we are pretty much below the rank. So I think we are over 30, 35 in terms of market access to US. We have to see clearly what will be the policies of the administration and on which countries those are going to be imposed, and whether there will be a trade diversion as a result of some countries having higher tariffs. There could be diversion from those countries. Orders may come here, can go to Bangladesh or can go to Vietnam. All these things we have to closely monitor all these developments. I think it's too early for us to come up with a firm assessment.
The central bank governor expressed comments on the proposed salary hikes in the state and private sectors.
There are few indicators. One is a public sector wage rate index. Other one is the informal private sector and formal private sector. But we have seen historically income levels of certain sectors have not come up to that level yet. So in terms of increasing wages of certain sectors, I don't think those increasing wages are not going to create excess demand. So still, their purchasing power has not come to the level that they had in 2018. I think that's one factor. Secondly, informal wages are already been adjusted. Throughout the crisis, we are seeing the informal sector wages are responding to the market demand and supply. That continue to happen. And the private sector wages also, those are most on the wage negotiations. Based on, I think, what I heard from the private sector, some of the representatives, formal private sector, is trying to negotiate kind of a reasonable negotiations compared to the level of inflation.
Dr. Veerasinghe also shared comments on the ongoing measures to safeguard the small and medium-scale enterprises in the country and their progress.
There are two schemes going on. One is the recent circular that was issued, consultation and agreement with the Banks Association and the government, provided a 3 months window for 25 million, 30 million and others, some space and opportunity for them to come back to the banks and ask for restructuring if they are able to restructure and come back to a normal repayment schedule. But we have not seen that much of requests coming so far to the banks for restructuring from the SME side, those who are finding it difficult, and they obviously has opportunity for them to come back. And that is a scheme only for this year. We already had issued another circular on business revival units. That's ongoing, continuous one. And also this corporate sector workout. Within that scheme, there's another scheme. That is the ongoing circular that we have issued for all the banks, and their banks are also working. We are also closely monitoring that. I think it's working well. And also given the fact that when interest rates were high, economy was not doing well, there's no sufficient demand, consumption is lower, then obviously we gave sufficient relief. But now interest rates have come to normal levels.
The appeal court today extended the agreement made before the courts to not arrest former director of Colombo Crimes Division, ASP Neville Silva, regarding the Valigama shooting incident up to the 28th of April, subjected to the objection of the Attorney General. Appeal Court Judge Gihan Kulatunga issued this order after summoning a writ petition filed by former director of the Colombo Crimes Division, ASP Neville Silva, and 7 other officials to issue an order to prevent them arresting. 6 petitioners of this case, including the former OIC of the CCD, Anselm Silva, have requested to withdraw the petitions, saying that they do not need to continue them. The judge accepted the request and given permission to withdraw the relevant petitions. After consideration, the petition today, it was ordered to re-summon on the 28th of April. The case against former Trade Minister Johnston Fernando and 3 others was again fixed for consideration today. The respondents have been accused of causing financial loss to government by deploying Satos employees into political activities. The case was taken for consideration today at the Colombo High Court before Judge Navaratna Marasinghe. Recording evidence on behalf of the petitioners conducted today, and the case was fixed for further consideration on the 23rd of June.
A special gazette notification has been issued for the Ministry of Health on the determination of the maximum retail price of pharmaceutical products. Now, the gazette notification was issued by the Minister, Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa. According to the notification, the maximum retail price for a given drug is determined based on the cost of the drug, insurance, transportation costs, supply chain expenses and the percentage of markup and the addition of VAT and other taxes. The exchange rate issued by the central bank along with the average selling price of the US dollar in the last 3 months is also considered when determining this price. Now, the National Medicines Regulatory Authority is authorized to revise the maximum price twice a year. Additionally, if there is a fluctuation of the value of the dollar, the institution has the legal authority to alter these maximum prices at any time for the public's benefit.
Veteran cameraman Chandralal Manamendra, who rendered 21 years service to Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, passed away. He was 78 years at the time of his demise. His remains will lie at a private funeral parlour in Baralla from 9 a.m. tomorrow. The body will be handed over to the medical faculty of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University on the 28th of this month.
Chandralal Manamendra entered the camera field as a trainee under veteran camera artist Sumit Amrasinghe. He first joined the Parasatumal film in 1966. Then he rendered his service from cameras to films Tummang Handiya Hantane Katava, Duhulu Malak, Pembara Madhu, Sasara Chetana, Aradhana and many other films. Chandralal Manamendra first directed the camera in the film Siribo Ayya. Later, he was on the camera director of many films including Vadula, Adhisthana and Reporter. He joined the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation as a camera artist in 1982. Since then, he has directed camera in many teledramas including Kumari Hami, Utturu Kurusatana. Later, Chandralal Manamendra served as the director of the Rupavahini Production Services Division. Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation expresses its deepest condolences for the demise of Chandralal Manamendra, who rendered a priceless service to the corporation.
Well, that's it on local news. We'll be back with news overseas.
In your foreign news, at least 24 people have been killed as multiple wildfires continue to ravage South Korea's southeast region.
The authorities stated that due to the deadly wildfires, which has forced more than 23,000 people to evacuate.
The 1,300-year-old Buddhist landmark was among the dozens of buildings that have burned. Thousands of firefighters and about 5,000 military personnel have been deployed to contain multiple blazes as well as helicopters from the US military stations in Korea. The authorities stated that at least 26 people were reported injured with 12 in critical condition. About 17,000 hectares of forest have also been destroyed, making the fires the third largest in Korea's history in terms of area.
Prima Kutumi, Fantamai.
We now move on to sports news. Thailand marked victory in the match against Sri Lanka at the qualifier for the 2027 Asian Cup football tournament.
And the match was held in Thailand. The match was played under Group D and approximately 17,000 spectators have attended that stadium. Thailand is ranked 97th in the world football rankings, while Sri Lanka holds the 200th position. From the commencement of the match, both teams played competently. However, the 43rd minute Thailand players scored the first goal of the match. As a result, the first half ended with Thailand leading by 1 goal. In the second half, neither team managed to score. Thus, Thailand won the match with a score of 1-0. And that was a look at your news here at Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. I've been Siobhan Pereira together with Sharifa Tahir. Wish you a pleasant evening. Take care.
Good night.